the video and audio doing? Can I get a thumbs up? Great. Well, greetings everyone. I am so excited, all of our participants who joined us today. If you didn't hear this already, you're interacting with us at the 6th Innovative Women's Conference, but undoubtedly the first virtual conference in IWC history. I'm Tayah Butler, and as the Director of Diversity and Inclusion of our undergraduate programs, this has been one exhilarating journey to today. I've been in my role for almost 4 years, and the directive our dean gave me upon hire was twofold. The first was to engage all of our students in a process of developing their cultural competence so they can thrive and most definitely lead in the increasingly intersectional and the diverse world that we're going to send them out to work in, but honestly that we're all living in. And then the second charge was to collaboratively produce programs and initiatives so that they can experience Poole College of Management in an affirming and valued and celebrated way, that we're recognizing the myriad of backgrounds and all those strengths that our students bring with them when they join our community as Poole College. So one of the ways that I get to do this is I get to take cues from North Carolina State's cultural centers. Hopefully for all my alumni out there, you might have a positive memory of engaging in our multicultural student affairs or our women's center, our GLBT center. Well, they set a tone for us across campus during the year where they create some themes that the entire campus can embrace. And my team and I explore how to express those themes in the nuanced ways within Poole community. And you can maybe see on some of the LinkedIn feeds that we like to share that we have a lot of fun in this process. So I get to talk to you today about Women's Her Story Month. So I'm going to share now a little bit of our background. So we were inspired 2 years ago by the Women's Center theme of Her Story. The theme of our voices, our bodies, and our stories inspired us to open a door for alumni to come and share with us the full story of being a business, accounting, or economics students in Poole College. I had a very brilliant intern in 2008, Jessica Carter. She had the idea to put together these stories in a display and that we would put them up in the 3rd floor hallway between Nelson's boardroom and our 3400 lecture hall. And since then, we have reached out to alumni every March and asked them to come back and share their stories. And for these past 2 years, our graduate students and our undergraduate students had separate events. But this year, we saw this unprecedented opportunity to combine the conference with Her Stories. So it's my pleasure today to host 2 segments of our schedule, and they're dedicated to Her Stories. I'm eager to invite the alumna who have volunteered to share their stories with us today. So the first individual that is going to tell us a story is Casey Adams Jones. She's a business administration a degree earner in marketing and in 2007. So Casey, I'm going to go ahead and let you take the floor.
All right, is my volume okay, everyone? Oh, awesome. Is it too loud? Okay, well, good morning, everyone, and happy Women's History Month. I first hope that everyone and their loved ones are well amidst the COVID-19 pandemic that we're experiencing. And as much as you can, I hope you're all engaging in some wellness practices to help reduce some of the stress. Second, I am so grateful to the Poole College team, including Jenkins MBA Women's Club and Tayah for inviting me to be part of this Innovative Women's Conference, and for being innovative in the execution, right? Since we can't gather in person, I am so honored to be part of this event. It really is empowering and it celebrates women, and it creates a space for us to talk about our plights and how we can overcome or at least navigate through them. And I even poured my tea into a think and do cup so that I could be ready for today. So let's jump in. First, I have a question that I want to pose for the, and of course, you have to answer in the chat if you don't want to. But would you believe me if I said that you are only one decision away from a life that's rooted in radical self-love and empowerment? Would you believe that you are capable of repotting the seedlings of self-love and continuously watering it to bloom into new experiences that are rooted in greater self-love or new self-love, if this is a new experience for you? Now, I understand that this is a vulnerable time for many of us, if not all, and we're focused on our families, our communities, but just for this short time together, I want to encourage you to take a moment to focus on you, how you are feeling overall, your personal and professional goals, and where you are on that spectrum between the definition of them and the actualization of them. See, the beauty in these challenging moments, like the ones we're experiencing, is that they can be some of our most powerful experiences. They help us find strength that in comfortable situations we really wouldn't tap into. But it's going to require transparency, and unapologetic action is going to be the main conduit through which an imagined life of self-love and wellness is actualized. And I'm getting a thumbs up from Tayah, so that's a good sign. So as I share an excerpt of my journey, we're going to make 3 stops. And I want you to try to find yourself in these 3 stops. Stop 1 is going to be building your own space. Stop 2 is going to be choosing yourself. And stop 3 is going to be intentional about setting boundaries and self-care. So my story. Oh no. There we go. After graduating from NC State in 2007, I worked at Duke University Fuqua School of Business. And shortly after, I thought, I want to transition into PR. I mean, it seemed like a fairly seamless transition. My degree is in marketing. I went to NC State. Let's be real. People know about the pack. But it wasn't. Even though I checked all the boxes, I had an amazing career coach. Shout out to Bev Porter, who now leads Jenkins graduate programs, but she was then at Fuqua. I joined PR organizations. I networked. I applied for jobs, whether I had a connection there or not. But to no avail. The no's were exhausting, and just all the explanations of why I just fell short of being selected were completely draining. So finally, I stopped waiting for the door to open, and I built my own space. I founded C. Adams Agency, LLC, which is a PR firm that would later serve clientele from startups to national names and even celebrities. But it would first start out as a nightmare. Because I was a recent graduate and new in the PR world, I took on so many unpaid and underpaid projects just to get the experience. But that quickly led to burnout. I overextended myself by saying yes because I felt like I owed someone for whatever reason. Oh, they made this phone call for me. They leveraged their network. They were there when I was just starting, and every other excuse I would give. But the reality was my business wasn't growing. And it was because the types of projects I accepted were not promoting my business. And I was always super stressed. And this was causing health impacts. I was risking the onset of high blood pressure and heart disease. So finally, I stopped to ask myself if helping others achieve their goals was being done at the expense of me achieving my goals. So then I started evaluating requests over time, and I thought, okay, does this project get me to my next goal? Do I have enough resources, as in time and finances, to complete this project and move the needle on my personal project? Sounds like great, I figured it out, but that's not where the story is. Saying yes to myself didn't prevent me from being distracted by the visions other people had for me based on what they allegedly saw in me, but it was more like how they saw me fitting into their box of needs. So as you can imagine, this quickly became frustrating and exhausting, and not having these boundaries made people feel comfortable to add a footnote to my vision. So I had to realize that everyone who physically shows up for you is really not there to support you. I mean, even hecklers go to a comedy show, right? Think about that. I also needed to understand that the root of self-care was being aware of your emotional, spiritual, mental, and physical well-being and being honest about your needs. And I needed those boundaries in order to define these facets that I just mentioned through my own lens. So finally, I stopped neglecting myself and got intentional about setting boundaries and self-care. And this would go on to help me find pockets to appreciate the small things in life. So, for example, calming therapy sessions, watching the sunset, or just taking 5 minutes to breathe deeply. So since then, with every communication position I've held at other companies, and even the short stint when I ran my PR agency full time, and even to date, I keep my agency and I take one-off projects as my schedule allows. And making these aforementioned stops prepared me to continue building my own space, choose myself and my goals, and remain intentional about setting boundaries and self-care. But at each stop, I had to choose myself and not feel any remorse about it. So I'm asking you again, would you believe me if I said you're only one decision away from a life rooted in radical self-love and empowerment? The decision is critical, it's achievable, and it calls for the most important, unapologetic action ever: choosing yourself. Thank you.
Can I get a virtual round of applause for our alumni, Casey?
Oh, thank you.
You are truly living the lessons that we've talked about today, and thank you for sharing your story on that. It's
Definitely,
beautiful.
no problem. It's a work in progress still.
Always, always. Well, our next story is coming from Denise Verdecilla. She also is a business administration marketing student, alumna from 2006. So I believe, Denise, you are out there, and I'm excited to give you the floor.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And hi, Casey. I'm so happy to see you here. She's also a personal friend, so this just makes it so much better. But thank you all for having me. It's really exciting. I actually am representing also from last year, so I have the water. So thanks for the cue, Casey. But thank you again for having me. It's always a pleasure to either come back to campus, be innovative, and meet you all virtually, and really just try to insert a little bit of joy and a little bit of hope in everyone's lives. As Casey mentioned, you know, it's a really difficult and challenging time, but I think that when we come together, we can certainly see the beauty of taking a step back and realizing that there's so much more that we need to appreciate on a daily basis. And so thank you. As I was introduced, of course, I'm a proud graduate of the Poole College of Management. I did marketing, as well as I was part of the first cohort of the entrepreneurship program under the leadership of Louis Sheets, who proudly is still there. I also recruit for the undergraduate admissions office. So I do all of their recruitment for South Florida under the PAC Partners program. And I also am the co-chair of the NC State Latinx Alumni Network. So if anyone here is interested in any of those programs, either recruiting, entrepreneurship, or even the Latinx Alumni Network, feel free to send me a message, or even on LinkedIn. But really, you know, one of the things that I really wanted to focus is a bit of a story. And going back on the previous session, you know, does the first job after graduation really impact what you do with your career? And for me, it did. So one of the things as a first generation college student, I was a transfer student at NC State from high school in Puerto Rico. And one of the things that I really noticed is that, you know, there's not much representation, not just in college at NC State. We built the community there, but just in general, I think that the support that I didn't have, I really wanted other students to have. So my first job right after graduation was actually a recruiter for UNC Chapel Hill in their undergraduate admissions office. Listen, they hired me, Casey, they hired me. So that means they needed the Wolfpack blood and expertise to come and be the face of Chapel Hill now. So one of the things that I certainly loved about it is that students would come up to me and they would say, I really want to build a community here. I want to see what is the community in this area, in the RDU, the RTP area. And I would be able to tell them, how I made my community, in the early 2000s when I was a student at NC State. So after that, I've been in higher education, working at institutions. I moved down to Miami, which is where I'm based out of now. And I did grad school here at the University of Miami. But one of the things that I really saw myself as really growing within higher education, I love to inspire others. I love to motivate others. I really just want there to be representation. I know that's one of the things that Poole College is really focused on is, it's not about just all the great academic programs and the great rankings that we always see and all the newsletters that they send out, but really is the representation and how we are truly valuing diversity, because to make it simple, diverse teams do it better. And really having diverse students, a diverse faculty, all of that, and as well as diverse staff, that truly makes a difference from recruitment all the way to even, do I want to give back to an institution that truly values what I value? So while working throughout the years in higher education, 3 years ago, I took an opportunity at a startup in New York City. So I said, well, let me, replace the palm trees with a little bit of snow and a little mix of Broadway, and really tried to take this jump to a new venture. 5 weeks later, I found myself driving right back down I-95 South because it was one of the most toxic situations that I had ever seen. And unfortunately, I was in a meeting and I told myself at that moment, this is not where I need to be. And at that moment, there was a blizzard the next day. I didn't have hot water. I didn't have heat in my apartment. And it was one of those really pivotal or breaking points. If you all, read some of the economic, kind of the tipping point in my life where it came to be that I said, you know what, sometimes I need to take a step back and really just realize that, the opportunity seemed great, but it wasn't the right fit for me. So when I came back to Miami, I sat down and I really thought, I've always wanted to really start my own nonprofit. And, sometimes you always say in the future, in the future, in the future. And back to what Casey said, which was very, I can relate to. It was that one decision where I said, well, why wait? Why not just go ahead and start it now? So 3 years ago, I started Birdhouse. So it's a play of my last name, B-E-R-D. I was raised in Germany. I'm a military kid. So the H-A-U-S is house. So essentially the purpose of that is that people come to me, students, come to me, underserved students, and I help them with college admissions process. I help them finding funding. I help them with the career transitions. I help veterans with career transitions as well. And I think that it's just a huge need, especially here in Miami, but I do help students and families in Miami and Puerto Rico, as well as in North Carolina. So a few months ago, really focused on helping these students and really giving them the tools that they needed. I hosted a workshop at a church here. So I'll take a step back. The reason I host workshops at churches is, number one, I work with a lot of undocumented families, and churches are a safe space for them. And so that's really important as far as getting to them, as opposed to having people come to you. Number two, these students, some of them are already graduated, some of them were in high school. They really needed to understand the college admissions process, but they wanted to feel safe. So I hosted this Friday night. It was raining. I was just like, I brought some donuts for everyone. I don't know what else to do. So let's kind of do an icebreaker. So I did an icebreaker where everyone stood up, families, students, siblings, and I asked them, okay, if you agree with this question, go to the right. If you don't agree, go to the left. And if you're neutral, stay in the middle. So I said, I love rainy nights. And everyone, kind of moved around. I love chocolate. I love pizza. I love the beach. Then I said, let's dive a little deeper. I'm excited about college. A lot of them were neutral about it. I know where to get resources to pay for college. Everyone said no. Then the next question was, I'm living my dream. And parents and students all went to neutral. So none of them felt like they were actually living their dream. And that to me really spoke to me, because it's not just the students, but the parents. And many times at institutions, we feel like, well, the parents will motivate the students, but what if the parents aren't living their dreams? How are they going to motivate their students? And so at that moment, I realized that we need to do more not just as me, you know, one person trying to build on a nonprofit really to support these students and their families, but we need to do more to help with self-care. We need to do more to help with mental health. We need to do more to really help these families find the tools that are right for them. Should it be, you know, families that were, you know, born and raised in a location, undocumented families, families that even from within our NC State community, we really need to be able to build that community. And that goes back to, I didn't have the support. I had the support of my parents, but they didn't go to college. And so what did I need at that time? And that's really what I want to be able to give to these students and their families. And so, you know, when one of the questions that I want to share with all of you is that look at what you needed at a certain point in your life. It could be today. It could be when you were a high school student. It could be when you were in college. And really make a list of what were those things that you really needed. Was it support? Was it tools for a particular project? Then take a step back and say, how far have I come with those needs? And what can I do with what I've learned and what I've gathered throughout the years so that I can then share that with others? It could be your neighbor, it could be your friends, your family, your network. It could be, you know, participating in conferences like this. But really, what can you then do for the collective and really support the community? And so I thank you all for this time, for allowing me to share a little bit of my story. I would love to answer any questions. Feel free to connect with me. And if you all have any needs for any type of workshops for college counseling, career coaching, it's all free. It's through my nonprofit. If you know of a family that needs that, again, completely in confidence. I just wanted to share that with you all. But thank you so much for having me. I'm proud graduate, go Wolfpack. And I hope to see you all around.
Thank you, Denise. Oh my goodness. Every time I get a chance to reach out and chat with you, even if when it's on the phone, I just get filled. I get filled with that energy. Thank you for extending that to us today. Thank you both for, in the midst of all the things I know that you're doing in your own lives, that you're willing to come back and engage. Well, for our audience that's listening, we are not done yet. This is the first session of HerStories. We're going to be back on the schedule a little bit later with some more HerStories. At this point, though, you're going to pick from some sessions. We're putting some of those session descriptions in the chat box now. And basically, I'm going to do my best to give you a rundown. There's 3 different options that you can choose from. You can also go back to the agenda that is on our Go link, go.ncsu.edu/IWC. But what you see there is that we're going to be doing our wellness sessions. So if you'd like to join Balancing Health, Life, and Work panel, and that's sponsored by EJ Gallo Wine, you get to stay right here in this room. You don't have to leave or go anywhere else. But we also have 2 other options. The Joining Women and Financial Confidence, sponsored by First Citizens Bank. You're going to go to the Zoom link 2, meaning if you were in this room right now, you're in room 1, and then the other panel's in Zoom link 2. And for Advocating for Your Life panel, you're going to go to Zoom link 3. Again, those are put in the chat box. You can either go to the link and copy it in, or you can copy right now from the chat box and join us there. We'll be shifting everyone. I'll see you in the next room.